Then we're gonna move on to comments from residents on non-agenda items. I do have one that has signed up this evening, Mr. Ray Firth.
Thank you.
You want me to pass them?
Come on, this is for you to take into your retirement.
Thanks, man. Sorry.
Good evening. Thanks for your time. I'm Ray Firth, and I live in Garden City. My pitch tonight is to the board members that are going to remain on the board and ask that with the new board, you make closing the achievement gap in gateway schools a high priority. The administration's growth and achievement system, which we'll talk about next month, is a very good system, and it has been ranked high in Pennsylvania. But in and of itself, it's not enough to close the achievement gaps by any means. You can see the data on the growth and achievement on tables 3 and 4, and you can see the gaps that will continue after that have continued with this program in place. Cover page of the handout shows that Gateway was recently identified as one of only 6 school districts in Allegheny County with double-digit education gaps in every school for that year. And further research shows us that having gaps, double-digit gaps in every school, almost every year since 2003. So this hasn't gone away by any means, and it hasn't gotten any bit better. Primary objective of the Gateway School District should be to have students ready for careers of the future. And that means graduates are proficient in English, math, and science. Table 1 and Table 2 shows that 20 to 29% of the students in these groups weren't grade level proficient. Does anyone think that that will make them ready for the careers of the future in Allegheny County? We're not alone in this. The United States is ranked 30th among industrialized countries in the quality of education. National studies have shown that the persistence of these educational achievement gaps imposes on the United States the economic equivalent of a permanent national recession. What's been attributed is a stagnation in the K-12 education system and greater inequality. And I think that's what Table 1 and Table 2 demonstrate to us, is that inequality in education. Yet we know that schools across this country have closed these educational gaps. That demonstrates that race and poverty are not a destiny to have low education gaps. I can repeat, please. Race and poverty are not a destiny to have the achievement gaps that we have in this district. These are avoidable shortfalls in academic achievement, and they impose heavy and often tragic consequences on individuals via lower earnings, poorer health, and higher rates of incarceration. If you look at Table 1, the 18-19 proficiency data for the high school. If you were in a corporation or a profit-making organization, would you be satisfied if the product lines that that your company worked on were at those levels of not meeting the standards set for your product lines? Look at Table 1, the 18-19. I'm sorry, repeating myself, my apologies. I don't believe any of you feel comfortable that we have education gaps of 20 to 30% and that they've persisted for 16 years at least. Can any school district be considered great with education gaps of 29% that have persisted for years? Imagine a close colleague of yours at work who's African American says that his or her child is struggling at their current school. Can you in good conscience advise them to come to Gateway, knowing Gateway is one of only 6 schools in Allegheny County with double-digit educational gaps in every school, and a gap of 29 to 45% of our African-American students. Should they come to Gateway, would you advise your colleague to bring their child to Gateway?
30
Those kind of
seconds.
odds? Or your sister has fallen on bad times. Would you advise her to come to Gateway, know that 1 in 3 economically disadvantaged children in Gateway will not be proficient? Please make a commitment to direct and support the superintendent to aggressively work to reduce these gaps. Superintendent will have to take some out-of-the-box actions, and more than he and his staff have already done. The entire board needs to be unified, supporting administration, but also to hold administration accountable for making the reduction in education gaps happen. Please make a commitment and work together. Then you can say, we all care about the children, and this is a great district. But I don't think that can be said with the 20 to 30% education gaps that we have in our district. Thank you.
Mr. Donovan, you have copies of that for us?
We're not.
Where did you get your down?
Mr. Firth, if I could just add,
Future ready PA.
at your request, I spent over an hour with you,
Yes,
hour and a half in my office with Dr. Chakey reviewing data, correct?
the achievement and growth data, yes.
Absolutely. And this is not my data.
Understood.
This is the Pennsylvania Department of Education data,
And I credited
correct?
in there.
Yes. So what you saw from the PDE site represented significant growth and achievement by the district, correct?
Not for these subgroups.
Well, I might add that this article that you referenced that you failed to disclose within this article specifically states the proficiency rates of black students at Gateway High School are the highest among black students in 42 school districts outside the city of Pittsburgh.
Wow, that's a big omission, Mr. Firth.
That's right from the article.
Okay. The comments from the audience are not appropriate here. Let's use decorum. Let's
So
be civil.
it's important that, and I do respect and understand where you're
Relative-
coming from.
relative-
However, I'm speaking, sir.
Relative, I'm
I'm
going to
speaking,
speak
sir.
to your
Sir,
point.
I'm speaking.
Mr. Firth, let Mr. Short finish and then you can go on.
It's important that the facts come out that are truthful. And
May I
this
respond?
information
I'm
is.
sorry.
Again,
These are truthful
I'm
facts.
trying to
Your
speak, sir.
point is correct.
Mr.
but we
Firth,
still
it's public
have a
comment, it's
gap.
not public debate.
Of all the people.
Mr.
of
Short
all
is
the
trying
people
to answer you, sir.
Challenge me.
I understand what you're saying, sir. But my point is, if you read further in the article, you will see the highlights that have been brought out by Mary Niederberger,
Right.
who has been a professional educational writer
Yes.
in Western Pennsylvania for over 35 years, who took the time to step into my office, review the data, and invited me on her radio show to review what Gateway has done with minority students. So all I'm saying is there's further information here that you have omitted.
The future ready data is included
Mhm.
for you and for the board.
Mhm.
The issue here is when you look at the exact data that you're talking about and you look at the history of Gateway, there is barely any improvement in the achievement data.
And again,
Is that correct?
you're misinformed.
No, excuse me.
Correct.
It's the future ready data.
Guys, it's time to move on.
Yep, it's not public debate.
The
Maybe you can
test
schedule
has
another meeting.
changed 3 times over the last 15 years. So you cannot examine data from 2003, 4, 5, and so forth, because it's irrelevant at this point, because there's a new assessment. Anyone who has an opportunity to view that would have seen that.
Your accusations, I'm sorry, Mrs. Succi, the accusations that I haven't used correct data should not stand.
Brian, please,
That's
end the public
18,
comment.
19 data that's here on our students.
Brian.
Okay, Mr. Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Wirth. At any time, you're welcome again to join me in my office.
Cool. Is that behind the woodshed?
Just to review data.
Oh, you spent an hour with him,
Yeah.
Mr. McIntyre.
All righty.